My goodness. It is March, what is today, March 15th? It's the middle of March. I feel like we just had our anniversary celebration in January, like two Sundays ago. Yeah, and like now here we are, we're already done with the first quarter. It's summer, basically, right? Here we are in spring. Time is moving so fast, so fast. So this month we've been talking about sustainable abundance, right? How do we have not just abundance, but sustainable abundance? Because I don't know about you, but certainly growing up in this teaching, certainly learning new thought principles, science of mind principles, one of the things that we learn how to do is how to demonstrate, right? Or how to make the invisible visible, right? How to use our practices like spiritual mind treatment, prayer, meditation, visualization, visioning, to call in what we desire in our lives, right? And there are times, though, that we're able to call these things in, but not sustain them, So this month I've been talking about how do we have sustainable abundance. And the first week we started was the war broke out, and so I talked about sustainable peace. Like what are the leaks to peace? How do we stop the leaks? How do we stop the leaks that prevent us from having sustainable abundance, whether it's a piece of money, of whatever it is. And then last week we talked about being built to receive, right? How do we cultivate within ourselves the strength and the structure to receive, right? To receive. How do we expand our mental equivalent to receive that which we say we want? Because we have to be a vibrational match to the very things that we desire, right? And so we talked about that last week. And so this week I want to talk about sacred stewardship. Sacred stewardship. And typically when we think about stewardship, we think about the external things that we do, right? Like, how do if we're talking about money or finances, we talk about like what are the systems we have in place to take care of the money, to conserve money, to make sure we're using it well. And there's a lot of emphasis around conservation. Right? How do I conserve? How do I hold on? How do I be very, very careful and frugal in how I move with this resource called money? And that is a very good thing to do, right? It's a very good thing to do. And what I want to talk about today is sacred stewardship in terms of how do we cultivate abundance, right? How do we even cultivate abundance? Because abundance is a part of stewardship, cultivating growth. Right? Investing in something and having a return, that is part of cultivating, that is part of sacred stewardship. So it's not just about conserving, it's about how do I make this grow? Right? How do I take what I have and how do I help it grow? Farmer Jason, right? It's about how do I help, how do I create, how do I take these seeds and cultivate them in a way that creates a crop? Right, creates abundance. And so one of the things I was thinking about as I was sitting with this concept of sacred stewardship is, and I say this all the time, but it bears repeating because the world tells us a different story that is actually a lie, right? What is true in the natural order of things, and God, source, spirit, whatever name you want to give the divine presence, is all abundance. It is indestructible. It is inexhaustible. It is eternal. It is infinite. Right? Everything about God is abundance. It's infinitely creating. It created each of us out of itself. And all things, all species, all places, all spaces, everything that we see is a divine expression, is a unique expression of the one. So the one is abundant. That is the nature. That is a quality of God. It is a spiritual principle. The one is abundant. And I had this beautiful quote by Ernest Holmes that I don't have memorized, and it's not on this iPad, but it said something like this. Something about, it's one of the core concepts of science of mind, is abundance is a divine spiritual principle. And abundance is expressing through life, we see it all around us. Look at nature, right? If you ever wonder, is the world abundant? Right? If you ever wonder, is lack and limitation the natural state? Just look around. If we look in this space, we can't count the molecules of air we're breathing. No one's concerned about being able to breathe right now, right? If we walk outside, we can't count the grains of the grains of dirt. If we go to the beach, we can't count the grains of sand. We can't count the number of leaves, right? If we look at the world, we can't even quantify the number of species and different kinds of varied flora and fauna that exist. We cannot even quantify it. There are species we don't even know exist. There's cosmos and planets and parts of the solar system we do not even know it exists. It's not in our ability to comprehend it, right? So everywhere you look, there's evidence in the natural world that abundance is the natural state. That is the natural state. God is fully, but we can't even fully know God. To even call it God is minimizing, because it's just something we're reaching for, right? But we can't even contain it in our language, because we can't even conceptualize the divine. It is so immense. It is so infinite. It is so eternal and everywhere present. We cannot even begin to grasp it. So we use our words like God, Spirit, Source, those things to try to find a way to talk about the presence, right? But abundance is the natural order. That is what's true. And one of the things that Ernest Holmes says in this quote that I don't have is something like that we don't have to do anything in order to experience it, right? So some people are not more deserving than others of abundance, right? Abundance is the natural state. We are made out of it. We are literally loaded and coated with it. We are made. There's an abundance of processes happening in our bodies every moment that we cannot even quantify. And we don't even fully understand, right? So we're made out of this stuff. We're made out of abundance in this immense thing. And each of us is, not some of us, but each of us is made in the image and likeness and not a pure spirit, right? So what that means is that there are not some people who are more valuable than others or some people more deserving than others. What it means is that we each are loved into expression by the divine. Each of us. Right? Each of us. And it doesn't matter. We don't have to do anything to earn our value. Right? Now, in the human world, we attach a lot of value to external things. Right? Which is why we see the rise of a lot of disparity in lots of different ways, because we attach value to the amassing of things. Right? Or people who do certain things. Or we just attach value to these external markers. Right, which then separates us from this abundance that is, and then puts us in competition with each other. So then we have to fight for resources or steal resources or squash other people, or all these other behaviors grow out of this erroneous concept that somehow, even though each of us is made in the image and likeness and not a pure spirit, that there are some folks or some actions that make us more valuable. When spirit is like, no, each of you is expressing, I'm expressing uniquely through and as each of you. Each one is valuable. And each one is very different because we're all unique expressions of the one, not the same. So we confuse that if certain people don't do things a certain way, or if this doesn't happen this way, or someone's life is not going that way, then we have all these judgments as humans about what that is and what that means. And if someone's more valuable or less valuable, or someone's work is more valuable or less valuable, right? When in fact, the natural world does not operate in that way at all, right? If we go out and see a garden, the roses aren't fighting with the tulips, right? Saying one is more valuable or less valuable than the other. Certain species everything exists within this system that works together incredibly, right? Incredibly. And yet we as humans come in with all this stuff in our incredible brains, and our brains tell us that we are the masters of the universe, and our brains tell us that we are separate from God, and our brains tell us all these things, and we may create all this madness that we then try to find our way back to source, to the truth. Are y'all following what I'm saying? Yeah. And so when we talk about sacred stewardship, we have to start with this natural principle of abundance. That is the natural order. Everything and every piece of evidence that we can actually see supports that. So even if you're not spiritual, there's no way you can look around at this immense planet. There's no way you can look at the stars and have a sense of the cosmos. There's no way you can sense and see and feel these things and not know that abundance is the natural order. right? If you plant a garden, or if you're a gardener, or you work with children, or anything where you're cultivating the growth of something, you see that abundance happening. And it doesn't matter who you are, right? You're then helping birth and cultivate growth, and it doesn't matter who you are. Yeah? So that is the foundational piece of this concept, is that life is abundant. That is the natural order. And so then, in thinking about stewardship, right, if we've already been given everything, right, if we're like the lilies of the field lilies of the field that, what is it, spin not, sow not, whatever, they're not worried, is the bottom line, right? The lilies of the field are not worried, right? They are glowing and spinning and completely taken care of. And if that's us, then why are we all caught up in all the crazy stuff? Yeah? And so one of the things I want us to really get about sacred stewardship is we have these gifts that we have been given. And I love this quote by Mary Oliver. You know, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Right? Your one wild and precious life. What a gift it is to be in these bodies, to be on this planet, to be in this room and in this space, to be a part of what's going on now, even though there are parts of it that are completely insane, right? But we're here and we're alive. So what is it you plan to do with this one wild and precious life? Because that is something of value that has been gifted to us. And part of sacred stewardship says, what am I doing with this gift? What am I doing with this gift? And whether you are here for another 100 years or whether you're here for another day, what are you doing with this gift? Right? Sacred stewardship asks us to look at certain things, right? To look at our consciousness, right? And so we have this gift of this teaching called the science of mind, and other spirituality that we've studied, or religion that we've studied, right? We have this gift, and this gift of awareness of the divine presence. We have these practices: meditation, spiritual mind treatment, visualization, visioning, all these things, right? We have the gift of this teaching that gives us the tools to transform our life. What are you doing with it? Right? What are you doing with it? Because if you're just sitting philosophizing about it, well, okay, but is that really sacred stewardship for the consciousness you're cultivating? Because this teaching is a gift. It is a gift to understand that we are created out of the divine. We can co-create, therefore, the lives that we want. That there is a power for good in this universe, and it uses us, and we can use it to co-create the life and the business and the relationships and the health and whatever it is we desire. Most people do not have that. So this is a gift to have this teaching. And so the question becomes, so how are you being a good steward of this knowledge? How are you practicing this in your life? Right? How are you taking this message and living it so brightly that people want to put down their tools and follow you? Or they want to know, what are you doing? What is happening? Right? What's happening? Where are you going? What are you smoking? Right? People want to know what's going on. Yeah? So this is part of sacred stewardship, is a stewardship of our consciousness. Right, and of these incredible tools and practices that we have in this community. Another thing in stewardship is also looking at what talents and skills do you have, right? Because we each are unique expressions, not the same, but unique expressions of the one, right? One source expressing in a multitude of ways. And each of us is very uniquely fashioned by divine intelligence. There are no mistakes to how we are created. And so therefore we have special talents, we have special skills, we have special assignments, right? We have divine assignments that are ours to do. And we have the skills to do that. We have ideas or creativity. We have skills. Maybe yours is music or singing or business or money management or writing or acting or medicine or healing. I mean, there's so many things, right? Like maybe that's how you're made and that's your skill. And so sacred stewardship says, how are you cultivating this in a way that grows? Right? How are you stewarding the skills, the talents that you are gifted with? Right? How are you using and allowing Spirit to use you to cultivate a greater awareness of itself through your unique capacities, your unique relationships, your unique network, your unique brain and the way your brain works, your unique skill set? Right? Because sacred stewardship is not about just conserving. It's about giving. It's about abundance. It's about creating. It's about generating. So begin to ask yourself, how am I using this skill or talent? Right? How am I putting this to work? How am I investing this to generate greater returns? Are y'all following me? Yeah. And there's another way that we have incredible abundance that sometimes we don't see, particularly as we get older, right? Truly and indeed, as long as we are drawing breath, there are opportunities that are available to us. As long as we are drawing breath, there are opportunities available to us, right? People that come into our experience, ideas that come into our minds, right? Connections that we have or networks that we have that appear in our experience. And so frequently, we have these opportunities that show up and we don't steward them. We either don't take advantage of them, we let them slip through our fingers, or we half-heartedly do so, right? And so the question then becomes, again, in terms of sacred stewardship, how am I cultivating the opportunities I've been blessed with? How am I cultivating these? How am I taking care of them? How am I making them grow so that I have more and more and more opportunities of whatever nature, right? It may be opportunities for great health. It may be opportunities for relationship. It may be business opportunities, right? Opportunity shows up in lots of different ways. But really looking at how am I cultivating these opportunities that have fallen into my lap that are mine? And if there are opportunities that are in front of me that are not mine, maybe I pass them to someone else, right? I let go of those. Yes, that is called stewardship, sacred stewardship. So this is the work now for us, is to really look at for ourselves and the abundance that we experience. How do we not only create more of it, but how do we invest in it? How do we love it? How do we take good care of it, not just conserve it? That's a very different energy, right? Moving from abundance means I am moving from knowing the source is fully supplying me, just like the lilies of the field, and I move through space and I make decisions from that place of abundance, right? So there's this class that we have going right now. The first week happened. It's called Manifest More Money. And the tagline is Heal Your Money Relationship, Reveal Unlimited Abundance. And one of the reasons I developed this class like 6 years ago, and I haven't done it in a while. But one of the reasons I named it Manifest More Money is, one, it's clear what I'm talking about, so we're not confused, right? Two, because money is a very controversial, there's another word I'm looking for, a very loaded, charged, taboo subject, right? Now, as a coach and as a minister, I work with a lot of people. I have conversations with a lot of people. I interact with a lot of people. I counsel, I coach. And here's what I've noticed. People will tell you, or me, the most intimate, vulnerable details of their lives, all of their lives, okay? All of their lives, except money, right? It's hard for people to talk about money. But telling me about their sex life and their this and their that and whatever, right, the things you would think would be difficult, no problem, right? But ask someone, well, what's your salary, or how much do you make, or whatever, it's just not that I would ask someone that, but just, anything that's about money, and people immediately shut down, right? And so I'm looking at that going, well, there needs to be a money healing, right? There needs to be a healing around this. Why is this a taboo subject? I don't understand why it's a taboo subject, right? So I named the class Manifest More Money because it is taboo, because people get all freaked out about it. And it's like, great, it filters out who's not supposed to be in this work, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is people mistake what manifest means. Manifest means to reveal. What it's saying is we live in an abundant universe. We lived in an abundant world. It's the natural order. And so to reveal more money is just a natural act, right? It naturalizes it. It takes all the mystery out of it, right? We're just revealing what's already there, but you have to be open to it. You have to be attuned to it, right? And then the third thing is that, what's the third thing? Money, manifest. The third thing is that, I don't know, I'll come back to it. But here's the point. The third thing is to begin to play with the energy, money's energy. It's not a person. It's not we have all this toxic stuff around money. It's just, it's an energy, just like any other spiritual energy, right? And we're open to it. We're aligned with it. We're aligned with abundance, the spiritual principle. Then that money begins to flow, right? And so beginning to play with and feel like, this is normal for me to be financially abundant. This is normal. Why do I have all this toxic stuff around it, and taking toxic stuff from the world around it, right? It makes it more natural. So in Manifest More Money, there's the first week, we have this challenge where individuals were challenged to manifest or reveal 5 times their investment in the course in the 5 weeks. Right? So they're going to reveal 5 times in unexpected income. I'd say that part. So in unexpected income, they're going to bring in 5 times their investment in the course in 5 weeks. Okay? There are 15 people. There are 19 people in the course. 15 came to the second week. Do you know 15 people brought in over $23,000 in unexpected income in 1 week? In 1 week, right? This is not magic. This is now all of a sudden getting more and more aligned collectively with the flow of abundance, right? Getting aligned with the flow of abundance. And it's difficult to do this work on your own. It's difficult to do this work on your own when you're facing your own whatever you're facing, right? But when you're in a collective of people, right? 2 or more gathered together in my name, I am in the midst of that, right? The I am presence is in that. And so these 15 people, I was so shocked that we in the class, I told everyone to put their numbers in the chat, right, of what they had brought in unexpected income. I must have added it up like 5 times. I was like, and then I told someone else, please calculate this, because I'm missing something. And then even after that, before I would post on Facebook about it, I had a meeting with the bookkeeper, and I'm like, okay, just look at all this stuff and just add this up, right, with your calculator, just make sure, right? And so in 1 week, in unexpected income, this group of 15 people brought in over $23,000, showed up for them, right? And it showed up as, clients showing up and booking. They found money cleaning out a desk, other gift cards, this, that, and the other, right? Unexpected income. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because part of being a good steward of anything is having fluency in it, right? Having this fluency in it. And so having fluency in how do I create more income if that's what you desire, right? How do I create an abundance of love in my life, loving relationships, if that's what you desire, right? It doesn't matter what the thing is. How do I create more health and vitality if that's what you desire? It doesn't matter what it is. The mechanism is the same, aligning with the divine principle of abundance, of whatever that thing is. Yeah, having the mental equivalent for that, and it brings it into your life. Money is just something easy for us to do, and it freaks people out, and I sort of like that. So that's why I'm focused on that. But the same principle applies, the same process applies for anything. Yes? So sustainable abundance, what I really want you to get is there are practices, there are tools, there are not even tips and tricks, but it's just like there's tools and practices that we already have and already know that we can use to be more aligned with that flow of abundance that is everywhere. The veil is so thin. The veil is so thin. Anyone can do this. It does not there's no magic involved. You don't have to be a special anything involved. You don't have to have a degree or anything. It's really just using these principles and practices to be aligned with that power that birthed all of us into existence. It is the power that runs the cosmos, right? That hung the sun up in the sky. It can do anything. It can take care of anything. It can support anything. It can transform anything. In the blink of an eye, God is, right? So that's what I want y'all to get. And so sacred stewardship is really just about us, each of us, being so aligned with the divine presence that created us that we allow it to move through our lives. We allow it to move in our lives. We allow it to help us experience this one wild and precious life in a new way, a new level of flourishing. And that's why we're here. That is why we're here. Let's turn within.